What's going on, everyone? Good Saturday morning. Hope you are having a great start to your weekend as we're getting going here. I thought I'd make the video in the morning today. I probably won't have time to do a video tonight, but in this video, what we're going to do is take our first look at Thanksgiving week weather-wise. There's some interesting things showing up. What I'm about to discuss in this video, there's nothing concrete about it. We're just starting to get a little bit of some crumbs, a little bit of an idea of what potentially could happen. So that's what we're going to dive deep into. There's the potential for it to be cold across the eastern U.S. There's the potential, maybe early, maybe later in the week, that there could be some kind of travel impacting storm system. But there's a lot to discuss, and there's still a lot to figure out. So I'm going to continue to provide updates probably every other day until we really know what's going to happen, which will probably be around midway next week. So that's what we're going to break down this. If you guys have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like the video if you like it. I make content every single day, even when there's not a whole lot going on with the weather. I'm also a storm chaser. Latest chase was Hurricane Ida. I have a video right there on the screen. And I look forward to chasing winter storms this winter. So thank y'all for the amazing support. Hope you are having a great start to your weekend, like I said. And let's get rolling with this. Also, if you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments, and it gives me an opportunity to pray for you guys. Life can get rough. It really can. And actually, I didn't really know him that well, but you know, I'm 30 years old, when you graduate with people, and as it gets, you all get a little bit older, you see somebody that you went to school with every single day, and you hear that they were in some kind of accident, or something happened to them and they died, and it was someone you saw every day for years. Had something like that happen to me a couple of days ago, where somebody who was well known got in an accident and was killed up in Spartanburg here in South Carolina. So just don't take for granted the little things. I have kids, and when I read stories about children dying and stuff like that, it absolutely breaks my heart as a father. So when you want to get mad about something, take a deep breath and just take advantage of the little things. That's my piece of advice for this Saturday morning. But let's get going with the weather here. So what I'm going to show you, what I'm going to break down here, is anomalies. So you see the red colors, which are heightened heights, and then you see the cooler colors, which are lower height. Basically what this tells us is it shows us ridging, which is the more warmer colors, and troughing, which is the cooler colors. So this is what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the EPS ensembles, which is the ensembles, which is always great to look at in the long range. And then we're going to take a look at the GEFS, which is GFS ensembles. And then we're going to start to take a look at some potential storm systems. So if you're just here to see, okay, is it going to snow Thanksgiving week or not? I'm here to tell you I don't know that kind of information. But I am going to show you some things that I'm looking at in the long range, because anything past 200 hours out, despite what you hear, is long range. And it's a huge unknown until you start to get some consistency. So here we go. So we're starting off today, and notice this is a trough, and this is actually happening right now. That's why it's going to be a colder weekend. That's why it's going to be a wintry weekend. Lake effect snow bands are popping off like crazy. Buffalo, New York is getting blasted by a lake effect snow band right now from what I'm just looked on radar scope. And wintry day setting up tomorrow across the Ohio Valley. I discussed that in my video last night. Basically, a trough reinforces itself and drops down, cools us for the early part of next week, and then some ridging starts to take place next week. About midway next week, we get some ridging that comes in play. What that means for us in the eastern U.S. is it's probably going to warm back up to a little bit above average. I don't see well above average like the South getting into the 80s and 90s or anything like that, but it's definitely going to warm back up and feel more like October. But you notice, see how these bars right here are dipping? That is troughing, and here comes another cold front next week. This could bring a storm system with it as we get into late next week. This isn't Thanksgiving week. This is late next week. This could bring a storm system with it. These troughs dig. Storm systems like to ride the jet stream where the trough is digging, and could get a storm system. In fact, I really think we will sometime next week. Some areas could see some snow that are in the interior locations. As we get into next weekend, it potentially could warm up again. But as we get into Thanksgiving week, early next week, here comes another cold front potentially. This is getting into 8 to 10 days out. This is pretty far out. So we don't know anything with confidence this far out. But what we do know is there is something showing up the ensembles right now. So this is showing another cold front dipping down the early part of Thanksgiving week. You know, and what I'm seeing here that's differently, and that I'll show a little bit later in the video, is this is more of an Arctic origined cold front, meaning the source of the cold air is from way up in North America. So that means that the source of this cold air is more potent potentially. So there's, I'm going to use that word 100 times when we're trying to talk about and figure out what's going on this far out. But this looks like a cold front coming up here, and there could be a storm system in this range. And then, you know, another signal shows up. At this rate, we're getting 300 hours plus out. Hard to take any of this serious, but what it is showing here is a cold front, and this is around Black Friday. But you look into Thanksgiving, this is definitely a chillier look for the central to eastern U.S. So we look at the ensembles for the GFS, which is a little bit different. You know, it's the cold front moving through. GFS likes the idea of same thing with the Euros, another trough digging down. But one thing I'm noticing with the GFS is it's not digging down really deep. So that means that even if we get a storm system next week, it'll be a little bit of a warmer storm system, meaning more rain than snow. Ridge may build in, and then here comes the same thing kind of that the European is showing. It shows troughing the early part of Thanksgiving week. How long does this last? Well, it doesn't show it lasting long, and it's showing it by the time you get into the day before Thanksgiving, into Thanksgiving, that a little bit of ridging takes place. But this is quickly displaced by potentially some more troughing, which is a cold front. But not a super strong signal, not as strong as a signal on the GEFS as the ensembles for the European model. So we'll compare that with the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. These are the professionals. These are the guys that do this for a living. They know what they're talking about. So November 20th through the 26th, which, you know, is basically the range for Thanksgiving weekends over into Thanksgiving. Right now, it's pretty far out, has a chance, a very small chance for below average temperatures and all these really light blue shaded areas, and then near normal everywhere else. But if you look at this, it matches up well with what the ensembles are showing for this range, because it's just big question marks. It's looking like the West is going to be above average. You look at precipitation wise, this also matches up well because of what I'm about to show you with potential storm systems in that time frame. Matches up well with this. So it's saying there's a chance for above average precipitations, and that's basically telling us that there could potentially be a storm system sometime Thanksgiving week, whether that's snow, whether that's rain, severe weather, we don't know. But what we'll take a look here is the morning GFS run. Every time I say GEFS and then I start talking about the GFS, which is the operational run, I have a hard time not getting tongue twisted with the transition. But here we go. We're getting into this weekend. Here comes that clipper. Going to be a wintry Sunday for you folks in the Ohio Valley into the interior areas of the Northeast. Fire off maybe a little bit of a northwest flow. As we get into next week, here's that other cold front that I'm talking about. There might be some kind of storm system associated with this. There might not. But as we're getting into next weekend, here comes another cold front, maybe a storm system. But look at this. Watch this. And this is 216 hours out. This is early Thanksgiving week. Big old trough digs right here. Sorry if y'all hear my dog barking in the background. Big old trough digs right here. And a low pressure rides along with it. With it, cold air is really digging here. And this low pressure gets going, rides up the eastern seaboard, and cold air is wrapping behind it. Now, this is really far out. I'm going to say it a million times, guys. But this is getting past 10 days out. Low pressure is riding that trough dig right here. And then there's enough cold air for snow if something like this was to happen. But it's so far out, it's hard to tell. What this would mean is it would bring snow into Tennessee and in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, and obviously the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley on the cold side of the storm in its interior Northeast, and it gets very close to the big cities of the Northeast, and then brings chilly air behind it for Thanksgiving. This would be for the day before Thanksgiving, and again, it's very far out. One thing you watch on the European shows kind of the same thing, shows the storm system. As we're getting through into next week, late next week, here comes a storm system with the trough digging for the European for late next week. It's a little bit more robust with precipitation, which is interesting. This would basically the European is liking the push of cold air late next week to be a little bit more south and meaning a storm system could potentially ride the jet stream a little bit more south, meaning maybe a little bit more disturbance as far as weather-wise, a little bit further south. This would bring some chilly air for next weekend. But looking into Thanksgiving week, here we go. Notice this little line that flirts around back and forth. That's the 32-degree line. Watch how it digs further and further south. And then here it comes, 240 hours out, around the same time frame as the GFS. Shows a big-time storm system. And, cold air coming in behind it. And all the European does is go 240 hours out, which is good because anything past that is totally inaccurate and just pretty much a guess. But 240 hours out here, right here. Check it out. This is the last frame. Has not wraparound snow, but basically a cold chasing precip type setup, which Tennessee does well with sometimes. Definitely a lot better. They do a lot more well than we do in the Carolinas. And it has snow as far south as northern Alabama. But take this all with the smallest grain of salt that you can think of, because this is very far out. But I'm excited to watch how this unfolds, because there's basically the models have been kind of flirting with this idea for a while that there'll be a storm system in cold air for Thanksgiving week. And here we go. So as far as precipitation, as far as temperatures, how what does that mean? So as we're getting into late next week, here's that cold front that pushes through. But you notice next week could potentially be quite warm, all the way up into the same areas that sees snow a few days prior, like Ohio. Wednesday getting into Thursday, getting into Friday, getting into next weekend. And then as we start to get into Thanksgiving week, here comes some Arctic air drop. Now, this is Arctic air. I don't like to use that word. Some people who do weather videos like to throw around the word Arctic like it ain't nothing. I heard somebody in the late summer saying Arctic air to hit the west. Hard to call it Arctic when that's just 35 degrees. It really is. If that makes any sense. But here we go. We're getting into not this Monday, but next Monday, Thanksgiving week, and here comes the cold air. So I think regardless, there is a signal here for cold air Thanksgiving week. You look at the European, it's the same thing. We're getting into next weekend. The European is quite chilly with the first front for next weekend. And then here comes the Arctic air mass potential seeping into the lower 48 from Canada, as we're getting into showing the teens showing up here. And then the last frame, which is basically overnight Monday into Tuesday, Thanksgiving week, the 23rd, if you're wondering about the date, you have some pretty cold air sinking into the lower 48 a couple of days before Thanksgiving. What I'm interested in here is, when I mention cold air from the Arctic origins, here we go. We're going forward here. This is temperature anomaly, so basically anywhere where you see the warmer than average temperatures is warmer than average colors is warmer than average temperatures. The bluer colors is cooler than average temperatures. So this is the EPS ensembles from the European. Getting into next weekend, here it comes. Here's that signal showing up for Thanksgiving week. And you notice how the blues go all the way up into the Arctic and coming all the way down to Canada, all the way into the central U.S. To me, that points to more of an Arctic origined cold coming down, especially with a little this warmer than average showing up in the basically in the northeast Pacific. This tells me that there's a little bit of ridging right here in the sea south of Alaska, which normally helps to push cold air down to the lower 48. So it's definitely interesting to watch as far as snowfall and the ensemble mean, which is important to look at when you go all the way past through Thanksgiving week. And there's nothing substantial showing up, but there is some heavier interior snows showing up from the mountainous areas and the Ohio Valley in the Midwest. But time to watch this. There's a lot of time to watch this, guys. But that's all I got, guys. Hope y'all have a fantastic start to your weekend. Go Cox, big time Gamecock fan. So I know there's a couple of viewers who are Clemson fans and Gamecock fans. So hoping if you're a big football fan, hoping your team pulls it out today. Unless you're a Missouri fan, I'm sorry. I'm not pulling for you guys today, obviously. But thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed weekend, and I'll probably be back with you guys sometime tomorrow. God bless all y'all.